Update about OpenAI's new patents. OpenAI is obviously one of the most influential companies in artificial intelligence. And since I'm both a computer nerd and a patent attorney, we have to take a look at their patents. So I did already take a deep dive into OpenAI's patent portfolio in another session. And back then they had 7 published patent families. Now, one interesting takeaway in my earlier review was that OpenAI's patents in the United States were issued roughly within 1 year, which is lightning fast for the patent system. And that's because OpenAI is a heavy user of the so-called one-track program provided by the USPTO, which is some kind of accelerated patent prosecution program against a fee. So, if you're interested in my earlier analysis of OpenAI's patent portfolio, just check out the description. I'll put a link to that earlier analysis there for you. By the way, I'm recording this live on LinkedIn, so please put your comments and questions in the chat box, right? And I will try to answer them as we go. And here's a question for you before we get started. What other AI company should I look at and analyze their patents? Just let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll make another review for that company, right? So let's dive in. OpenAI's new patents. So what I did is I had a look into the one of the public patent databases. I'm sharing my screen now, and I was just searching for patent publications with the applicant OpenAI. And since my last review, and I could find 4 new hits, 4 granted US patents, actually. So all of those are active and issued patents in the United States. So let's just go one by one through those patents today to see what OpenAI is up to at the moment in terms of their patent filings. So the first one is called Systems and Methods for Interacting with a Large Language Model. Let me actually pull up the actual PDF document. So here we have it, US patent. Here again, you can see if we look at the dates for a second. So this one was filed in September 2023. So yeah, roughly 1 year ago, almost exactly. And it was issued end of July 2024 this year. So less than 1 year from the filing until the patent issued. Okay, systems and methods for interacting with a large language model. What could that mean? If you're watching my videos, you will know that as the title of a patent, you can actually pick almost anything. It doesn't say what the patent actually protects. So let's dive into this one. Before we look at the patent claims, which really define what the invention is or what the scope of the patent is, let's just look at the drawings. Sometimes the drawings, a picture says more than 1,000 words, right? So not always in patents, but let's have a look here. So here we have some kind of generic architecture diagram. We have a user device, a network, which is probably the internet, and then an image processing system and a machine learning system. Okay, so far so good. Here a flow chart. So what does this flow do? Display an image to a user. Okay, so this seems to be about multimodal language models. An image is displayed to the user. Then it goes on, receive a textual prompt from a user. Okay, so the user enters a normal text prompt. Generating input data using the image and the textual prompt. Okay, both is thrown together then. And then generating output using the input data and a machine learning model. And displaying an emphasis indicator at a location in the image indicated by the output. Okay, so what should that mean? There is some kind of indicator in a location in the image, in the initial image, generated by the machine learning model, probably. So let's have a closer look in a second what that actually means. So maybe here we can see some details. This seems to be one example embodiment. Let's put this in the correct orientation. Here we go. Okay, so you can see a chessboard, and here's a text prompt. Yeah, the user says, "Where can white move?" Okay, I get it. Okay, so the user asks ChatGPT, "Where can white move in this on this chessboard configuration?" And then here you can see the answer: white can move pawn to d4, and there is some kind of emphasis indication here, some kind of hand pointing to D4. Exactly. So that's probably the gist of this invention, that I guess that the LLM, the AI, can not only answer in writing, but it can show you what it means in the picture, probably, right? So here's seems to be another example. The user prompt is, "Where's the biggest boat?" And okay, here the biggest boat is again indicated by some kind of a hand cursor in the picture. Okay, I see there are various other examples, including a puppy. Okay, give him an outfit. All right, I think we don't have to go through all of those examples. I think we got the idea, probably, right? Let's see what comes next. Yeah, the typical generic computer architecture we always need in US patents. Another structural diagram which looks rather generic on first glance for me. Okay, and that's it for the pictures. So let's quickly skim through the introductory portion to see if we are on the right track here. So it says that the disclosed embodiments relate generally to methods and systems for interacting with machine learning models. More specifically and without limitation, this disclosure relates to systems and methods for interacting with a multimodal machine learning model using graphical user interfaces. Okay, we see. So then it starts in the background section, it starts explaining what a machine learning model is and what an LLM is and what a multimodal LLM is. Namely, it is an LLM capable of processing multiple types of input data, such as text, images, videos, and so on. As you all might know, for example, with ChatGPT, you can not only chat, you cannot only fire text prompts onto ChatGPT, but you can also upload documents or images and have the LLM work on those. So that's a multimodal large language model. Conventional ways of interacting with a user interface. Okay, that this is more of a generic introduction. And I think here it gets interesting. It says present machine learning models, including multimodal LLMs, are typically limited to responding to user queries, including those pertaining to a particular image, with words, resulting in answers in the form of blocks of text. Such blocks of text do not always result in a user being able to identify or select a certain visual element within an image pertaining to the response of the model. Okay, yeah, and this makes pretty much sense, I guess. So if we think back to this chess example, so if I was to upload, I as the user would upload this picture of the chessboard into ChatGPT and ask, where can the white player move? And then ChatGPT can only answer in text, as it normally does, describing, well, white can move the pawn to d4. Then I, as the user, have to figure out where d4 is, and but in this invention, apparently, the LLM directly shows me in the image by some kind of emphasis indicator where D4 actually is, where the answer is. So let's look maybe into the claims to see how this is reflected actually in the claims. You will all know that the scope of protection of a patent is not defined in the title, not in the drawings, not in the description, but in the claims, in the independent claims, right? Those define the set of features which have to be fulfilled in order for the patent to be infringed. So let's look at claim 1. Here we have, let me zoom in a little bit for you. We have a method of interacting with a multimodal machine learning model. Okay, and the method comprises providing a graphical user interface associated with a multimodal machine learning model. Okay, so far so good. Displaying an image to a user in the graphical user interface. Okay, now here's an image displayed to the user. Receiving a textual prompt from the user. Okay, pretty clear. The user inputs in text what he wants. Generating input data using the image and the textual prompt. Okay, now the image and the text prompt is put together, and then the claim goes on with generating an output, at least in part, by applying the input data to the multimodal machine learning model. Now all gets thrown into the LLM. The multimodal machine learning model configured using prompt engineering to identify a location in the image, conditioned on the image and the textual prompt, wherein the output comprises a first location indication. Okay, now what the LLM does is it uses prompt engineering. Let's think about that in a second, to identify a location in the image. And the output of the LLM comprises a location indication. And then we have the step of displaying in the graphical user interface an emphasis indicator at the indicated first location in the image. That was in the example images, this hand cursor. And then the claim also says, wherein displaying the emphasis indicator at the indicated first location in the image comprises placing a cursor of the graphical user interface at the first location in the image. Okay, so a cursor is actually put into the location that needs to be highlighted in the model's answer in the picture. So that's how I understand the claim. Okay, I think this pretty nicely captures what we were envisioning from looking at the drawings and going through the intro of the specification. Interesting. So some remarks maybe. So first of all, this is a method claim, which is pretty much common sense in digital patents nowadays, especially in, let's say, algorithmic inventions like this one, where the invention is really about the interaction between the user and the computer. So it's some kind of a flow ping pong game between the user and the machine. And so a method claim is of course the natural pick for that. And you can see that you don't have much clutter in that claim, not any units, processing units, or any kind of graphical user interface, reception component, and things like that, because you don't need it. All you need to define in your claim is really the novel and unique interaction flow, which is to be protected here. 2 points I find interesting in this claim, because on the first reading, this claim sounds quite generic, I have to say. Let me get back to the screen sharing. So we had this method which basically describes a very high level ping pong, as I said, of interaction between the user and the LLM. So you have this graphical user interface, you display an image, you receive a text prompt, you generate an input for the LLM, you let the LLM do its thing, and then you display the result. So that's a very basic flow. What I find interesting is 2 things here I am stumbling across when briefly reading this claim. The first one is that the claim requires that the multimodal machine learning model is configured using prompt engineering to identify a location in the image. So the way how the LLM identifies the relevant location where to point at has to be done using prompt engineering. So that sounds a bit strange to me spontaneously, because I'm not sure how the machine learning model could be configured using prompt engineering. So that's probably one point that would come up when should this patent ever be enforced. I would ask myself, what does this really mean? What does this require? If I have the machine learning model somehow adjusted in another way to be able to point at the location just by fine tuning or by other training methods, but not with prompt engineering, would I be out of the scope of this patent? Prompt engineering, in my understanding, is let's say the craft, the skill, and the art of formulating a precise and proper prompt. So this is normally what the user has to do, right? The user who inputs the text prompt has to come up with a great prompt, and that is called prompt engineering. So how can the machine learning model be configured using prompt engineering? I'm not so sure. Okay, so this is probably one point where the patent is maybe more specific as it sounds on first glance. And then also what I find interesting and what I think would probably be another point of dispute if this was ever enforced is this last limitation. This actually looks like, because it's the last claim feature, that this was added during prosecution to get the patent over the patentability hurdle. It requires that during the displaying of the result, the emphasis indicator comprises a cursor of the graphical user interface at the first location. Placing a cursor of the graphical user interface at the first location. So here I'm wondering whether this can be any cursor. So as we saw in the exemplary figures, some kind of a hand symbol, which looks like a cursor. Yeah, it points somewhere. Or does it have to be the cursor of the graphical user interface, so my mouse pointer, basically? If the latter reading would apply here, if the patent was limited to the user interface cursor, the mouse pointer, so to say, then this patent would probably be quite narrow, because that would require the LLM to really control the mouse pointer, and that's I haven't seen that feature somewhere. So interesting patent, I would say. Easy to understand, but as you can see, the devil is in the details. You always have to be very careful with the words, and basically every single word has to be taken on its face value, and you have to see what it really means, how broad or how narrow. You have to understand the limitations that are recited in the claim. Actually, I think it would be funny to see whether ChatGPT itself actually has this feature. So let's just open up my ChatGPT console and let's try it out. So again, this invention was about having a picture and then giving a text prompt asking about something in the picture, right? And then the LLM would have to respond by pointing to a certain area of interest inside the picture. So what we can do is I have a picture of just a photo of my son's English school book here. So as you can see, it's the grammar book. It has 3 section headings here on this page. So what we can do is we can just put this picture into ChatGPT and say, can you highlight the section headings on this page, right? So that would be now an image, and that would be a text prompt. So let's see what the model does. Okay, yeah, it replies in text form. The headings on the page are as follows: grammar, writing. It's even correct. Yeah, those are the correct headers. So far, this is not a use of the patented teaching, I would say, because there is no graphical indication of the LLM response, so to say. But let's say, can you mark the headings directly in the picture? Let's see what OpenAI, what GPT does in as an answer to this prompt. I'm using ChatGPT 4.0 here. It seems there was an issue, okay, but it tries again. That happens sometimes. I don't know why, really. I'm not sure. And now the model says, I have marked the headings on the image. You can download the updated image from the link below. So let's see. I'm actually downloading this result now, and let me show it to you. It's this one. Okay, as we can see, we have our snapshot of the English class book, and here in the red, with the red text, okay, here the GPT has marked the section headers. It's a bit off, right? But still, at least there is no location indicator. Let's go back to the patent. An emphasis indicator in the form of a cursor of a graphical user interface. So, doesn't seem that OpenAI has implemented this feature themselves in GPT so far. Anyways, so let's move on to the second patent we have on the list today. And this one is called Systems and Methods for Interacting with a Multimodal Machine Learning Model. So sounds kind of familiar because I think it's also, if you look at the inventors, the two inventors are the same. Yeah. And a third one here. So also this is about interacting with a machine learning model. So let's quickly scan through the drawings. Again, we have the same picture here. Again, a flowchart. This one begins with providing the graphical user interface, then receiving a contextual prompt. Okay, I'm not sure what that exactly is. Generate input data using the image and the contextual prompt. Generate textual response, provide textual response. Okay, so here the flow seems to be different in that there is no image generated or augmented with the location indicator, but a textual response is given. Let's see what that means. Okay, and the input seems more on the image side here, probably. That seems to be a smartphone taking a picture. And there are some markings here. Not sure how to understand this patent here. So I think we have to look into the claims, which we do anyway. But so far from the pictures, I cannot really tell how this is operating. So let's look into the background section quickly. It says that in conventional machine learning systems, users interact with the model via textual conversations. Okay. However, for certain tasks, the use of text input can only the use of text input only can be inefficient. Okay, so this pattern seems to address the problem that, if you are limited to text input only, you have a limited way of interacting with an LLM. So let's look at the claims. The solution to that problem, it's again a method claim, a method of interacting with a pre-trained multimodal machine learning model, and the method comprises. Let's see. The first step is providing a graphical user interface configured to enable a user interact with an image to generate a contextual prompt that indicates an area of emphasis in the image. Okay, so here the flow is completely different. So it starts with an image provided by the user, and some kind of contextual prompt is created, which involves that the user can indicate an area of emphasis in the image. That's probably one of the circles in one of those pictures. Receiving the contextual prompt, generating input data using the image and the contextual prompt, generating a textual response to the image by applying the input data to a multimodal machine learning model configured to condition the textual response to the image on the contextual prompt, and providing the textual response to the user. So picture in, text out in this case, wherein the textual response comprises a prompt suggestion, and providing the textual response comprises displaying a selectable control in the graphical user interface configured to enable the user to select the prompt suggestion. Aha, okay, I see. It also seems like this last feature is a bit unrelated to the previous features, and it looks to me like this feature had to be added during prosecution to get the patent issued, because I mean, the beginning of this method is really, really, really generic, right? So you have a graphical user interface. The user can input an image and emphasize some part in the image. Then the LLM creates a text response. That's a pretty generic way of interacting with a multimodal LLM, which was probably around already before the filing date of this patent. So they probably had to add this last feature, that the textual response from the LLM comprises a prompt suggestion and a selectable control. So the LLM not only answers with respect to the image you input, but it also includes a suggested, let's say, follow-up prompt, probably, which you can click to, start the next interaction cycle. Interesting. Okay. So it's probably, it's in some way the other way around than the first patent. So, by the way, at the moment, I am going live with these LinkedIn video streams every Wednesday on LinkedIn. And if you missed the live event, you can watch the recording on YouTube, or you can also listen to the audio on your favorite podcast catcher, in case you didn't know. So, if you've missed the live stream, if you're watching the recording right now, I'd love for you to join me next time so you can ask questions in real time. And the easiest way to catch the live events is just to connect with me on LinkedIn. Very simple, because there you will see the events. Okay. Do we have any questions in the chat? Yes, we do. So one LinkedIn user is asking, so as is, this wouldn't be technical at the EPO? Good question. We can only make a hypothesis about this, because these are granted US patents, and as far as I can see, there are no family members yet, no European counterparts yet, because those were filed less than a year ago, and they already got published and issued in the US thanks to the Track 1 program. But we don't know yet whether there are probably PCT applications which would eventually lead to European patent applications. I hope so, because it would be interesting to see how these cases turn out. I would say, roughly speaking, I think the patentability chances of these kinds of interaction methods are probably better as one might expect, because actually I'm doing a lot of those human-machine interaction patents for another client in another industry. And those are quite patentable in many cases. So maybe it makes sense to take a deeper dive into the patentability of a claim like that from the European perspective. But we are running out of time. Time is flying, and I think I'm always trying to keep these sessions at less than 30 minutes. So we are basically at the end today. What I would suggest is maybe let's do exactly talk about this question in one of the next sessions. And let's also look at the other two patents we still have on the list in the next session. Okay. So, okay. Then that's it for now. Check out the links in the description for some cool follow-up resources, links to the patents I just mentioned, and things like that. And see you in the next one. Bye-bye.